Hey everybody, this is Yolanda and Samori Swygert. We're coming to you again with another banger. What we do? What are we reviewing today, Doc?
Oh man, is this microphone on? We're doing American Skin by Nate Parker.
Yes, yes. And before we get into it, I'm Yolanda Spivey. I'm a writer, insurance broker, writer first, movie reviewer. Love all things movie, mom, everything. Black woman, ow, and just an all-around Renaissance chick.
Beautiful sister right there. Beautiful sister.
Thank you.
My name's Samori Swygert, writer, poet, author, artist, musician, healthcare practitioner, Renaissance man. As you can see, I do it all. I wear many hats. But that's neither here nor there. And happy Black History Month to you.
Yes, happy Black History Month. So, Maury, you are the new age Gordon Parks. And that is a heavy, heavy footsteps to walk in, my brother. But you are Gordon Parks.
It's all good. It's all good.
Revisited.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Yes. So what's up, y'all? What's up? Break this. We saw the internet probably about like a little over a month ago. The trailer for American Skin by Nate Parker was circulating on the internet by the different clips and stuff they had in it. It was really like, it was evoking a lot of visceral responses from people. Everybody's like, yeah, we got to see this joint. You know what I'm saying? And of course, COVID has movie theaters closed, so everybody's watching it from home. Mm-hmm. But we both watched it. Yolanda, break down the plot. What was let's start with the plot first, and then we'll go into it real quick.
So the plot, which kind of replicates real life, but had a fairy tale ending, and I'll tell you why I said fairy tale ending. But the plot was of a man driving in a car with his son. I guess they were going home, and the police pulls them over. Of course, interrogates them a little bit out there on the road. Eventually, it leads to his son getting shot and killed by one of the policemen. Mm-hmm. And Nate Parker just goes on a tirade, but it wasn't a tirade. Mm-hmm. But he actually just kidnaps the cops, the whole entire police station, him and his team, and they interrogate the cops themselves, and they hold court in the police station with those police officers, and especially with the one who killed his son. And the ending, which we will discuss a little bit later, was so shocking, mm-hmm. but not surprising. But yes, but I want to discuss this ending so bad with you because it was like a fairy tale ending again. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so great, precise and concise analysis of the plot. So straight out the gate, Yolanda, what feelings did this movie by Nate Parker, American Skin, what did that evoke in you?
Oh my gosh, it evokes sadness over anything. I was just so sad that I cried for like a half an hour after the film.
And you're a parent too. You're a parent too.
And that's exactly why I cried.
And because, a Black parent.
Yes, to a son, to a Black son. Right. I'm like, if that happened to my kid, would I have done the same thing? Or what would I do in that situation? I don't even want to think about it. Mm-hmm. I think I'm not going to lie, Doc. I think I will kill myself just so that I won't enact pain, hurt, and destruction onto anyone else. Right. Because that is a tough thing as a parent to think about, mm-hmm. And in the film, Nate Parker, after his son passed away, and, he's around his family, they're all talking. He's thinking about his son. He's looking at the memories, the little reporter that came to his house mm-hmm. to interview him. He showed a little film clip of his son in great times, just having a great time being a boy. Those people who are hurt are left with the pain, the memories of their loved ones.
Yes.
You can't, and nothing in the world can replace that. No amount of money, no amount of support from anyone out there can replace the hurt and abandonment and the feeling that you get from losing a loved one in that manner. When someone takes or murder, okay, because it's straight up murder, your kid,
Right.
nothing.
Yeah, you know, I find that interesting. That was one of the things I had jotted down in my notes, was that how when we talk about police brutality and violence inflicted upon people, and we're talking specifically about Black people right now, is that yes, it does leave this thing of PTSD. We are traumatized. There's trauma there. And I think it's also interesting the fact that Nate Parker in the film, he played a character that was a war veteran, and his friends were war veterans too. And so when you think of veterans, you always think about this PTSD that goes on with them from what they may have seen or experienced while they were in combat or overseas serving. To come back, to be traumatized again as a Black male and Black person in America, it's another form of PTSD that occurs. And I don't think we delve deep enough into that, into society, because these police killings, they are definitely evoking and invoking trauma into the psyche of Black people in America. These police killings are also destabilizing Black families and homes and communities, because when you kill, when these police officers kill a person in their family, that family is never the same. That bond is broken permanently. And so whether the child is lost, the parents are heartbroken, you know, the friends are heartbroken, the community is broken. If you kill a parent, you destabilize the household, because we know we are in 2021, the 21st century. The cost of living is extremely sky high. Many households are making it on, you know, dual income to sustain. So if you kill one parent, you now have one parent that has to sustain that whole household that may have been budgeted off of two people contributing a salary. So now you completely undermine that household and undermine the community. So if this happens all across the nation in all these cities, highly populated by Blacks, what's really happening to these households? What's happening in the communities? Because now you got people like, look, okay, you already took my son, or you took one of the breadwinners. Okay, you remove one of the breadwinners. Now I can no longer even afford to stay in this place, whether it's an apartment or paying a mortgage for a household. I got to change up now. So it increases the stress. On top of the fact that you lost a love, you know what I'm saying? Never the same. So completely traumatizing, destabilizing. Go ahead.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And Nate Parker, who name was Lincoln Jefferson. Check that out. Lincoln Jefferson.
Go in, sister.
Yes.
Okay. You know I ain't sleep on that. Go ahead, go in.
Yes. Side note, you look just like Nate Parker and Omari Hardwick. What's his name? Omari Hardwick? Hardwick? You look like them mixed together. I just want to let you know that. Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, you look like Samori. Oh my gosh. But this is what he said to the white cop when he pulled the trigger, when we thought he was going to kill the cop. Okay, so guys, we're giving away some, you know, points in the movies. We what you call it? I can't even think. Anywho, he said, that indescribable feeling I've been carrying around for the last year and a half. Now you know.
Right.
Now you know. All that pain, the trauma, like you said, PTSD, all that good stuff. You know, he put that on the cop to make the cop see. That's why the movie was so powerful, because what he wanted to show was the pain that we as Black people feel when the men in blue, okay, kill our people. Right. And I'm not even going to say black, white, or anything. I'm going to say black and blue at this point, because the movie really wasn't about black and white, although it did have elements of race in it, of course. But overall, it was about blue and the Black community.
Right.
And it also had like an overall theme of defunding the police.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
Have you, should police departments be defunded? Should, because, the way the cop, what he was saying when he was being interrogated by Nate was, I was trained this way. This is how they trained me. I was afraid for my life. And I'm thinking, if you're so afraid, you shouldn't be a cop.
Right.
But should cops be defunded? Should cops be retrained in another way?
Hmm. See,
he admitted too that had he, he admitted that he was racially profiling them in the first place. Like he was racially profiling them, which is why they were pulled over in the first place. He admitted it.
Right. Right.
So should cops be retrained? That's a given, yes. And should the police department be defunded?
See, I think great questions, Yolanda. And I think that it goes back to something even more entrenched and embedded. Talk about law enforcement, because first we have to remember that we're in America that has been off the break, nurtured and raised, bathed in the system of racism and white supremacy.
Correct.
And so the systems that come under that banner of racism and white supremacy, they're all influenced by racism and white supremacy. Like,
yes.
Just I'm not even gonna go tremendously deep, but I mean, for the fact that you had hundreds of years, centuries of just white men as presidents, and Barack Obama was the first Black president, from the very first. It had to happen after 2000, centuries after this country's inception. It shows what? White rule, right?
Yes.
So this is, like, make no mistake about it. And so this is that play on the wording of his name. But America is entrenched and born with racism and white supremacy. And so the police department, law enforcement, we have to talk about the inception of it, from slave catchers, slave patrols, right? And so they were there to protect the property and to sequester runaway slaves. And so fast forward into today's society, 21st century, law enforcement, we can go back to the FBI memo from 2006, where they published a memo saying that law enforcement nationwide has been infiltrated by white supremacists. And so when we talk about retraining, I don't even think it's an issue of retraining. We need a purging of the current department. It needs to be the same way that they
I agree.
would search out for insurgents or terrorists. What we're talking about, like the same way they were like, okay, well, we're on a search for Al Qaeda or Hezbollah or Boko Haram or all these different people they claim as terrorists. The intelligence agency, they will go through all these different means to see who's who, what's what your belief in ideology and philosophies are, root them out, separate them, isolate them, and then handle their business. They need to do that same type of vetting and purging of these police departments to see who these white supremacists are. We have the annals and archives of history in America when it comes to police departments is replete with them having racist police officers. So when you're trained, I was trained this way. Who trained you? And what was inside their brain and their psyche when they trained you? They operate where they train you with a white supremacist mind state. So then when you go out on the streets, it's okay to do this to this type of person. But don't treat a Chinese person like this when you engage. Don't treat a white person like this when you engage. A black man right there, yeah, you could be aggressive with him. do that. That's fine, you know.
Even with their own.
Right.
And they touched on that in the movie because there was a part where Nate Parker after he overtook the police department, he freed some of the prisoners. He let them out of their cells and he allowed them to serve as the jurors. And one of the prisoners was a Latino man. And he was talking to his fellow Latino officer. And I love that. That dialogue was so dope.
Ooh.
Because they touched on something that is so deep rooted in a lot of Black and Latino communities. And that's wanting the closeness of white proximity, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be.
White Latinos are a big issue.
Yes, yes. And they really touched, that dialogue was so damn dope. Like, I encourage people to see the movie just so they can hear that dialogue between those two brothers, because it was just amazing. And anywho, you know, on one part, you know, the cop is saying, you know, you're degrading us, and, you know, and other, a criminal, I hate to call him a criminal because I don't know if he's a criminal, he hasn't been, you know, whatever.
The arrest.
Right, he was, yeah, exactly. He was like, you're hurting us, you're hurting our community, you know, with the things that you guys are doing. So it was just amazing. It was amazing. But I did see that the cop said, you're degrading us, you're doing this, you're doing that. And it was almost as if he wanted to be white. That's how I took it.
Yes.
You know, he wanted to be close to white, and being close to white is hurting his own people.
Yes. Right. Yeah. That. So, and I had put that down in my notes, is that inter and intra ethnicity bias or hatred.
Yeah.
Intra ethnicity hatred is there. It's real. You know, like, he's looking at him, even though we may share the same language, I don't see you the same.
Right.
I don't see you the same. You like dirt to me, you know. And I think that that's very interesting. And the other thing I think that was so good about this movie was that blue wall of silence, right? It shows, like, it's like, okay, if it's a wall, let me show you what's on the other side. And it showed how fragmented it was. Even when you had the Latina officer, the female officer, she was Latina. So then she was like, yo, you see her talking about when the white Latino officer and the other white officer were talking, you know, she's kind of like looking at him like crazy, like, yo, you tripping. She didn't really speak up too much, but then she went in on the gender part where, like, you know, when so, you know, basically because I'm a woman, then so it you know, there's gender issues within the police department. There's intra ethnicity, you know, beef and bias and hate. I thought that was very interesting. The other thing I thought that was interesting was that, you know, remember, we say that America is racism and white supremacy's plantation. America is a plantation. Let's not get it twisted. It's white dominance is still the case. We've seen this from the insurgency, January 6th. You know what I'm saying? It's still there. It's still, that hatred and animosity is still there.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you have this black captain, police captain, but the captain's supposed to run the ship, but you can see that there's mutiny on the ship.
Right.
There's mutiny on the ship. And some of those that are leading this mutiny, this takeover, this usurpation of power, or ignoring power, was this white Latino officer and no other white officer, you know?
Yes.
And it's kind of like, if I was the black captain, in my head, I would have to think, because, you know, he was kind of, you know, he spoke at certain points in the movie, but,
did.
You know, you would have to think like, damn, I'm up here trying to protect these officers. I'm coming to the victim's mother's house to try and get them to calm down and do all this and protect the blue wall of silence. But behind the blue wall of silence, now I'm hearing, now that they're holding court on my officer inside the precinct, I'm hearing all this white Latino and this other white officer's thoughts. All his judges, all his prejudice, all his bias, all his animosity, his animus, his racial hatred towards blacks, all his preconceived notion towards blacks. wow, now I'm actually hearing him verbalize this, and I'm his superior. Wow.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I love Wolfgang Bodison. I love the fact that he was in that role. I don't know if you are a Wolfgang Bodison fan, but I am. He was in a few other movies.
Which one was that?
He was the chief. He played the chief. Yeah. Okay. So anywho, I'm just happy to see that brother in roles. I hope more roles come his way from this role that he did. But yeah, there was a point that someone made in a movie about Black cops doing it the worst. I think one of the prisoners said, yeah, Black cops will be the first one to shoot you. They will be the first one to bust your ass. They'll be the first one to, shake you up before the white cop does. Right. So that's why I mentioned about this movie being about Black and blue. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because within the blue, is a whole bunch of other shit that, they have to deal with when it comes to race. Right. But blue ultimately protects itself.
Right. Color of law. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Yeah. And that's what I saw. Blue protected itself. And I'm happy you also brought up about the Latina that was talking about women. Mm-hmm. The movie really set the tone on the power of white men and also their frail egos.
Right. True indeed.
Yeah. Because anything outside of white men or white male is not acceptable. Right. Women, gay, Latino, Black, whatever. Anything outside of being a white and a man is just not, accepted.
That's the standard.
That's the standard. Exactly. And the whole entire movie played on that notion. Mm-hmm. It played on it. Mm-hmm. If it's not white and if it's not male, it's not acceptable. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny how when Nate Parker's, mock jury deliberated, how one of the women who was a white woman automatically went in and protected that young white cop, although the cop admitted to wrongdoing. Well, you guys still didn't comply. You guys were speeding. How do you know I was speeding? There was no speed tracker.
Right.
Even though they admitted to that, and I'm so happy we saw that, because that's exactly the conversation that we have with regular people out here in them streets.
I was going to say, one thing I said was I really love this movie because within the movie script, as they were writing the script, you can tell they were paying attention to the copious amounts of different dialogue and exchanges and arguments that happen every day on news shows, talk shows, blogs, speeches. It's like he kind of addressed all these different topics, but he made it as like an exchange and dialogue between the jurors, the defendant, the plaintiffs. Like that was excellent. That was really excellent.
Yep. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. And it was like, we see what we see as Black folk, okay? And white people see what they see as white folk.
Yes.
But what is the truth?
True indeed. No, you're really right.
So, and it also shows how this whole system is designed to protect white men. Mm-hmm. It just is. Well, it's designed. And I mean, just how this young cop, he got off. Nate Parker said, no, I'm gonna hold my own court. Okay. Right. Okay. And he through his actions allowed this young white boy to admit that he purposely stopped them for no reason. had he, and I love one of the prisoners, and he was fine as hell, Samori. One of the prisoners said, yeah, I'm going to look him up. But one of the prisoners said, you know, had you not stopped them in the first place, had you not profiled them in the first place, his son would be home.
Right.
His son would be home.
Exactly.
So at the core of it, you are at fault. Yep. You murdered this boy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But what they see is, oh, well, they're police. They have a hard job. They're doing this. They're doing that. These men did not comply. This man did not comply. So it's almost as, oh, yeah, since he didn't comply, he is the one responsible for his son's death because he didn't comply.
Right. And, you know, and that's serious. Like, you know, that word comply and compliance.
We hear that often in the streets. We hear that often.
Comply or die, basically.
If you don't comply, you die. Exactly.
Yeah. And there's a lot of points situated around that comply or die thing. One, I would say, if you look back when his son was alive, and he was having the internet conversation with his friend, and he was breaking down all the constitutional laws and rights, and he was like, "Yo, this is what because his son was out in suburbia,
right?
You know what I'm saying, getting his schooling and education. He's on the phone with his friend from back in the hood, like, yo, you know, this is what they teaching, yo. We don't have to do this according to Section 2 of this amendment.
That baby knew it. He knew the law.
You know what I'm saying? And he's like, yo, this is what they teach us in class. So he's showing like, yo, these young white students and young white youth, they are being taught their constitutional rights.
Yes, they are.
How to vocalize, articulate, and protect themselves when engaged by law enforcement.
Right.
For us, it's not a matter of understanding, your constitutional rights. We can be lawful, legal, right, and doing everything, but it's not about whether you're right. It's do as I say and comply. And if you don't comply, you're going to die. And so that's what that whole compliance thing was. And so It's so interesting too. Remember, I said America is still racism, white supremacy's plantation. I don't care what you say. It's still America, it's still racism, white supremacy's plantation. Nate Parker thought that in the movie, that,
right.
I'm shipping my son off the plantation so he's safe. I'm situating him geographically, relocating him from the hood into white suburbia. So he should be safe. Naturally, you kind of deliver him into the hands of the
He certainly did, yeah. He was more safe in the hood,
Right. And then it goes back to, like Karis once said, officer, yeah, officer from overseer, right?
Right.
So now you thought that you shipped your son off the plantation and he's safe in suburbia, but then he runs into the officer, the overseer.
Right.
Both of them are getting engaged by the overseer. The whole thing is there's no running and escaping white supremacy. People think that they can escape, I'll just geographically relocate. I'll move to Africa. Like, you've got AFRICOM. You've got, but I'll just move here. No. Racism, white supremacy is a global system concept.
It is.
And a lot of people don't understand that. You know what I'm saying?